Warm greetings from New York. I am pleased to send this message about leadership in the United Nations at the time of the pandemic. I congratulate all of you for your continued efforts to further develop your skills through training opportunities such as this one. We're going through once-in-a-century challenge of a global health crisis, which has exposed a number of deep-rooted structural and systemic injustices and forms of discrimination, economic and social disparities, which had already all been pre-existing in our countries. Our world is also witnessing an increased tension between big powers, as well as continued challenges of complex regional and internal conflicts, and a threat of terrorism and violent extremism. Millions continue to be displaced and in despair. And of course, our Mother Earth is sending warning signs about the health of our planet. We, humankind, are at an important turning point in our history. We must recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and its various impacts, while addressing all of these serious issues and build back better towards common security and prosperity. As the United Nations working in this challenging context, we must take seriously the responsibilities of serving the peoples around the world. I don't think the essence of leadership at the United Nations is that different from the general facets of leadership, but as you know, there are some unique features of our organization. We are a value-driven organization guided by the norms, principles, and spirit enshrined in the United Nations Charter and other international laws. We are, by definition, a multinational, multicultural, and multilingual organization which embraces and enjoys the richness of diversity. We are a complex system of organizations composed of the UN Secretariat, specialized agencies, and other agencies, funds, and programs, covering a multitude of mandates to tackle various challenges. And often forgotten, the UN Secretariat is one of the 6 organs of the United Nations. And as such, we do have an extensive level of delegated authority, space, and independence entrusted upon us, incomparable to any other international intergovernmental organization. Having said that, let me suggest 3 key elements of leadership at the United Nations. They are all interrelated and, in my view, all necessary for a successful UN leader. The first key feature of a UN leadership relates to leading and crafting of a vision and strategy for the team, office, or department he or she leads. As a leader, you need to allow and indeed encourage innovation and creativity to identify and test new approaches on the basis of solid analysis of the situation you are confronted with and the potential capacity of your office to address it. The world is going through a major transformation, and the conflict, humanitarian situations, or development challenges you're tackling as a UN leader are never static. You should not be afraid of something new, and you have to be risk-taking with adequate risk mitigation measures. That's how anyone is able to create a new vision or strategy. With this openness to new ways of working also comes the willingness to fail and to learn from mistakes. As a concrete example, I know a visionary UN leader who started a non-political activity of civilian casualty recording work in Afghanistan. This effort eventually resulted in the complete change of targeting procedures in NATO operations, opened dialogue opportunities with the Taliban, and now serves as an inspiration for a political declaration on limiting the use of explosive weapons in populated areas at the General Assembly. And needless to say, a good vision and judgment is only possible if you know the strength of UN entities and take full advantage of the richness that the diversity of our organization brings. Second important facet of UN leadership is your ability to inspire people, enable your team, and build alliances and coalitions, thus creating a force multiplier impact. When you're dealing with the kinds of almost impossible challenges we are working on at the UN, even the most effective leader cannot achieve success alone. Your success depends on your team members working with you. To bring out the best in your team, you must draw on your managerial capacity of understanding the potential of your team members and creating space for them to fully bring them out. It is also extremely important that you have the trust and the confidence of your team members. Be considerate of their needs. One of the key features of Mrs. Sadako Ogata, former United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, leadership was this. Everyone wanted to work with her and to be part of a team accomplishing the vision she laid out. Communication is key, but communication is not about telling others what you want. It is also about listening to other perspectives and having dialogues. Finally, let me say a few things about you as a leader, but also as a person who commands respect from others. Unfortunately, the challenges you will be tackling cannot be resolved overnight. They need a series of sustained efforts, combining various policies and instruments. But the first step as a UN leader is to have empathy and sympathy towards people who are suffering and to express your solidarity with them. Be humble, honest, and sincere, especially when you are not able to solve the challenges immediately. Be courageous in upholding the values that guide our work at the United Nations. Being calm is an important facet of leadership in a crisis situation. Being civil is critical in the increasingly divided world with social media full of fake news and personal attacks. At the end of the day, one thing is clear: you can only lead by the example of your own conduct. I will end with the words of Dag Hammarskjöld, one of my hero leaders, from his New Year's message as broadcast over United Nations radio on the 31st of December, 1953. I quote, "Our work for peace must begin within the private world of each one of us. To build for man a world without fear, we must be without fear. To build a world of justice, we must be just. And how can we fight for liberty if we are not free in our own minds? How can we ask others to sacrifice if we are not ready to do so?" Some might consider this to be just another expression of noble principles, too far from the harsh realities of political life. I disagree. End of quote. I wish you best of luck in your training course.